All right, hello everybody, and welcome to another episode of the Robbie Basel Show. Hope your day is going well. Today is November 6th, episode number 49, just one shy away from episode 50, which is this Friday. Welcome back. I'm Robbie Basel. Let's get straight to it. So today's topics are going to be the Premier League, the NFL, and F1 because baseball is done. On Friday, I felt like this would make sense because Iona's basketball's home opener is on Friday. I'm going to give a almost pretty much full preview of Iona basketball this Friday. I forgot what the date is. Real professional here, chat. But it would be on Veterans Day, so hopefully that episode would be out before the game, a couple hours before the game, so you guys can get a full preview of what to expect for Iona basketball here in 2023-24. Iona basketball opens tonight. They are in Charleston at 7 p.m. on Flow Sports. Unfortunately, I can't watch it because there's another game that I'm going to be caring about very much at 8 o'clock. And we're talking about that one a little bit later. But we're going to begin with soccer because there's two things we have to talk about in soccer today, which is the Prem and the Champions League. So let's open with the Premier League and a very controversial weekend. We'll start from Saturday. United play at Fulham in probably one of the most boring games I've ever seen. United, led by Bruno Fernandes, got a late goal and stole 3 points at Craven Cottage, score of 1-0. And it was, I don't know. I mean, the ratings were not very good. Hoyland's 6.8. He's been really bad. They started McTominay. They Harry Maguire. Harry Maguire on a 7.7 is actually kind of wild. I mean, he didn't really do anything on the offensive side, but defensively it was actually pretty solid, which is scary for me. But we had the Fernandes goal assisted by Pelestri, and we actually got news that Bruno Fernandes is talking with, I believe, the Saudi Arabian. Let me just look at Fabrizio Romano's thing real quick because I saw this during one of my opening class today. Let me just double check for you guys that this is going to be totally accurate because that's what we're here for. Because the big story, of course, was Luis Diaz from the weekend, which we'll talk about his match in a little bit. There was, for some reason, a link with Bruno Fernandes. Sorry for the scuff start today. Because I thought he was meeting with the Saudis today. Yep, Saudi Pro League plots Bruno Fernandes move. So he's going to have future talks with the Saudis, possibly joining Saudi League, which would be massive, by the way. And it would ruin United entirely. And I would love to see that because I don't like Manchester United. But on this show, I try to be as least biased as possible. Try to be a little more professional. Fortunately, I did not have the full source or the full article in front of me. So that's my fault. But we keep going regardless. We had a Brentford who pick up a massive 3 points and have found their goal scoring ways as they beat the Hammers of West Ham by a score of 3-2. A very big result for the Bees. A late goal by Nico Collins gives the Bees the 3 points and puts Brentford in a very nice 9th place, which, by the way, for those who didn't watch the Premier League video, this is where I had them finishing the season. So hopefully Brentford stays in or around this position because, I mean, Brentford, though, has been on a scoring run. I talked about it a couple episodes ago. I think it was the episode towards early October saying Brentford doesn't score very much. Since that episode, Brentford has put up 3, 2, and 3 again. They haven't had a run like this all season. I mean, if you look at how they've been scoring goals, they've only, up till that point, other than their first 2 matches, they didn't have a game where they scored multiple goals. Yet they played teams like Newport County, who are in the lower leagues. They played Bournemouth, and that was their only other 2-goal game, but they didn't have a run like this. This is a phenomenal run by Brentford, and they get a very interesting matchup with Liverpool next weekend, which will be a very fun one to watch for sure. We have Crystal Palace just beat Burnley 2-0, and Everton just drawing Brighton. This doesn't make any sense. I mean, like, you had an early goal by Mikolenko, then Ashley Young own goal, sealed the fate for Brighton to level it at 1. Brighton dominating possession as per usual. Everton had 20% possession and drew this match. We saw this in AFCON qualifying with Tanzania. Watch the last, I think it was the last international break video where we talked about Tanzania. But Everton out XG, Brighton, they'd outshot Brighton. I mean, other than an own goal, Everton was the better team in the match despite the possession showing otherwise. We had a Man City just run through Bournemouth and Sheffield just beating Wolves. This day was weird when you knew Sheffield scored a 100th minute penalty courtesy of Norwood. We had Archer score in the 72nd, then Bellegarde equalized in the 89th for Wolves, and a ton of stoppage time, and a late penalty by Oliver Norwood sealed the fate for Sheffield United to pick up their first win of the season, and they're still dead last, ladies and gentlemen. It's my only other current pick right in the Premier League. And then we had this game. Newcastle and Arsenal. And when you look at this game, let's just go through this. Was Arsenal robbed of a point? And when you go back, there were multiple moments. This is not from a biased perspective. This game should have been a draw. Arsenal's attack was really bad, but Bruno Guimaraes got away with a red card. I think the other goals should have been disallowed. If you look at it on the, this is not me coming up with complaints. I'm talking about Arsenal in a minute. From a referee's perspective, from my perspective, the goal should have been disallowed, not for the foul in the box. I thought that's what they're going to call a disallowment for. But from the angle they had, I thought it was conclusive enough to call it out of play on the touchline. Apparently, VAR said otherwise, which is kind of odd. And then they had a go possible offsides, which I didn't think was offsides. I thought that was, I saw that as a possibility because when Raya came forward, he was technically now the second to last defender. I think it was right that they didn't call that an offsides. Foul, it was a 50-50, fighting for the ball in the box. I think that was the right call as well. I just don't understand how that ball wasn't out of bounds when there wasn't any white on the ball. It's where the ball is on the ground, not like the overhead. Anthony Gordon with a cool, calm, collected finish, scramble in the box. You gotta give him some credit. He had a great match. But we did see some moments where we could have seen some red cards handed out. I think Bruno Guimaraes got away too many times. I don't know how the hell you only got a yellow card in the 88th minute. But Newcastle's the better team out XG'd Arsenal. They played a great match. Dan Burn picked up a knock, which sucked. But there was one play in the 37th minute, and I'll address this now. Kai Havertz. There's an argument for Kai Havertz to be sent off. It would have been harsh for Kai Havertz. Granted, it was a horrible challenge. It was late. It was kind of playing the ball. I can make an argument for that too. I think yellow was the right decision. He did maybe possibly get away with a red, but I don't think that was enough for violent conduct. And then Newcastle just being shocked for the reaction. I think it was right from the referee to hand it out. I think the Shar yellow card was the Longstaff yellow card was undeserving, but Shar and Gordon, I think it was correct that they got yellow cards for that. I'm surprised about Guimaraes because he started the whole thing. Tim Howard said it best at halftime when you're watching the match on NBC. He was shocked how Bruno Guimaraes was not sent off. Everyone was shocked how Bruno Guimaraes wasn't sent off. I mean, Kai Havertz, you can make an argument for. Bruno Guimaraes with so many reckless challenges throughout the duration of the match. I think he should have been sent off in the first half for an elbow to the back of the head of an Arsenal player. Nonetheless, though, Newcastle finished their biggest chance of the day. Arsenal were much worse without Martin Odegaard than I thought they would be. I'm interested to see how they look in their Champions League match during the week. Enough about that match because I don't think you want to hear me go on and on and on. We had Nottingham Forest on Sunday just beat Villa, which makes no sense because Nottingham Forest, I said, we're going to be really bad. But Harry Tafolo said not so fast. He had an 8.6, but we had a goal from Allah Aina, assisted by Tafolo. Tafolo had 2 assists, and Oral Mangala got the second to give it 3 points to Nottingham Forest, who soar up their rankings to 12th, which is, for reference, they're ahead of Chelsea. And I said they're going to be relegated. How good am I doing in my rankings, ladies and gentlemen? And then we had Even weirder result, Luton Town just drawing Liverpool. Yep. I was gonna bring this up later. What Luton Town did for the first 90 minutes of the match, like, was absolutely crazy. And like how well they played as a unit, as a group, and all over the pitch, outplaying Liverpool till the Luis Diaz goal, to Heath Chong Man United reject with a great finish on a counter attack. Good call by the referee for no penalty. It was a ball that could have been arguably off of, I think it was maybe Ross Barkley or something. I don't know. I don't remember the exact player, but he was like facing away from the ball. He didn't even know where the ball was. I think it's correct for no penalty there. And then it was a very wholesome moment to see Luis Diaz in the situation that his father is in. I'm not going to go into it very much. You guys can read up on that whole situation. He scored in the 95th minute to equalize, to give Liverpool a 1-1 result, to put Liverpool in third, tied with Arsenal at 7 wins, 3 draws, and 1 loss. Tottenham currently sit in second. They have a match to play today, which will go up. It will be done before this video goes probably live. I'm not sure. But they play Chelsea. Should be a fun one. And then we go back to the regular schedule for the weekend. And now, the Champions League. I'm not doing the song. Here we go. What matches do I like this week? So, for those who like the matches from 2 weeks ago, when we had the likes from the match, actually, no, was this? That would be 2 weeks ago. Well, guess what, ladies and gentlemen? Flip the home and away teams, and there you go. We get basically a rematch of the matches from 2 weeks ago. And what matches do I like for a rematch? Listen, I'm going to see how Lazio plays Feyenoord. If you look at that group with Feyenoord, Lazio coming off a difficult. I think Lazio lost to Feyenoord during the week. I got to make sure I have that stat correct. Yep, Lazio lost 3-1 to Feyenoord in the Netherlands. I'm interested to see how they look at home. Atletico Madrid coming off a tough draw to Celtic. Can Celtic actually shock everyone and get a point in Spain? I don't think so, but it's very possible. But let's go through each of these matches. We go have Dortmund playing Newcastle in a group that's been very, I think, underwhelming. Newcastle have scored, Dortmund has scored 1 goal in 3 matches. Newcastle has actually scored 4, but they're in third, excuse me. I don't know how. I think it's on goals again. I don't even know how they're in third. According to football, they're in third. I think it might be wrong, because Newcastle with the better goal difference should be I don't know. I think. Hold on. This might be my mistake. Oh, that's why, because head-to-head. My mistake, ladies and gentlemen. I forgot Dortmund beat Newcastle 2 weeks ago. So Dortmund on head-to-head. In second, they get Newcastle again. AC Milan plays PSG. AC Milan has yet to score a goal. Have been in very poor form. Can they get their bounce back win at home in the San Siro against PSG? They coming off a very tough loss, 1-0 at home against Udinese in the Serie A, where Udinese, for reference, is 16th currently. So that's how bad that loss is. But Udinese is not a bad team. They had a draw with Napoli. So Milan, they're in a little bit of a struggle right now, they haven't won since October 7th with the match against Genoa. They haven't won at home since a match against Lazio in late September. In the last match they had September. So can this be the turning point for AC Milan? Some may argue a must-win game for AC Milan, because they are falling away. Falling down the order in their group. Barcelona goes to Ukraine to take on Shakhtar Donetsk. Shakhtar actually looked pretty competent against Barcelona last time, despite this. It was a 2-1 win at the Nou Camp. So actually, at the Olympic Stadium, whatever the heck. What is their stadium called? See, this is what I don't understand. Because they were playing it. Yep, it's a Stadi Olympic. I'm not saying that end, because I'm not good with the Spanish terminology. But we have that matchup, and also in that group, we have that's the wrong group. We have Porto at home against Antwerp. Porto, last time out, played a 4-1 win on the road to Antwerp. We're probably going to see more of the same. The Portuguese are very good at home this season, so I'm expecting a lot from Porto. We have Red Star. This is Red Star's time. If Red Star wants to have any form of a chance to get out of the group, they're playing Leipzig, for reference. Red Star, 1 point, drew Young Boys. If they want a chance to finish in third, I think they need to win this game or at least get a result. Because one, Main City is going to be Young Boys. So Red Star, this is their chance. Because the next fixture after this for Red Star, if I could find it, in late November, Red Star goes to Switzerland to play Young Boys. So if they can't get a result in Belgrade, we're not going to see Red Star likely in the Europa League round of 32, which is even more painful for a team like not Young Boys, for Red Star, because they have a decent amount of quality players. So it's an interesting development there. And then also in that group, of course, we had City against Young Boys. And that is all the matches from Tuesday. Wednesday, we have some also very interesting matchups, starting with Napoli facing Union Berlin, an Union Berlin team that I think struggle for them has been an understatement. They have still not won a match since August. They have gone 2 full months winless. Which, one, I don't know how everyone's not fired. Can this be a turning point? You're in Naples. Okay. A tough place to play in. The Italian fans, I've been to Italy, they are ruthless. But the team that won the Scudetto last year, can Napoli continue their decent form and go out and get a win to maintain second and likely open the gap to Braga, since Real Madrid plays Braga again, and I'm expecting Real Madrid to win their match because it's Real Madrid. They're at home to Braga. Why wouldn't you expect Real Madrid to win this match? We have Sociedad, who are just shocking everyone. They're in first. They play Benfica. And likely, they're playing Benfica, right? Yep. Which is a must-win game for Benfica. Because if they lose, they're going to be fighting for a Europa League spot for the remainder of this tournament. Which at the beginning, I said Benfica win this group. So that pick looking kind of trash for me, but it's also an interesting situation for Salzburg. Just imagine this. Imagine Benfica lose and Salzburg beat Inter. Benfica has to win out and hope Salzburg lose out to have a chance at a Europa League spot. That's the situation Benfica is in. That's just crazy for me. In Group B, Arsenal, who found a way, as mentioned earlier, to lose to Newcastle and piss off every fan of their team, every part of their fan base, they play Sevilla, a match that you would expect Arsenal to win depending on who they throw out on the field. We also in this group have an interesting one with PSV, who are struggling. They're in last in this group. They play Lens. I'm expecting PSV to win this one because it's at home. So that's my expectation. I think at the end of the day, it's still going to be Lens in second due to goal difference. But I would expect Arsenal to open the gap at the top, get a 4-point gap with 2 matches to go. Which for Arsenal, it's Lens and PSV. So listen, it's all up for grabs still. But I really think that this could be the time where Arsenal finally opens the gap in this group, which I didn't expect in my preview video, which is kind of hilarious. We have Bayern. We're concluding with Bayern. They are playing Galatasaray, a match that you would expect Bayern to win. And then you have Copenhagen, who I think are going to bring a real challenge to Manchester United. I talked about this match in the preview. I think this is going to be a draw. Copenhagen is not playing in Copenhagen. If you've seen their fans, they're very similar to the energy of Galatasaray. United couldn't really handle their fans. I mean, Manchester United, for reference, lost to Galatasaray already. I'm just trying to remember where it was. Because Manchester United, was this at home? They lost at Old Trafford to Galatasaray. Galatasaray in Copenhagen's level are not that much different as I thought it would be. Because Manchester United at home struggled and had led to late dramatics, and they needed a goal from Harry Maguire, of all people, to get them a result. And that's just wild to me. I'm expecting Copenhagen to at least get a point out of this match. Not because I don't like Manchester United, because I'm really high on Copenhagen. So that's my expectations for the middle of the week. Let's recap the NFL for this past weekend. And we had a ton of crazy games. A lot of games that we need to break down. So let's get right into it. We had the Chiefs and the Dolphins. This game didn't really live up to the hype for me. I was expecting like a 80-point shootout, zero defense, and I was just really let down. But you hate to see that. Mahomes, Tua Tagovailoa in the last drive underthrew a receiver and fumbled. That's summed up the game pretty well for me. We had not good plays in the running game, and the Chiefs' leading receiver was Noah Gray. I'm not talking about this game anymore. And then the dramatics begin. Because the 1 o'clock session arguably was the best session of football we had all year because of the dramatics. So let's see what we had. We open with the Josh Dobbs special as the Vikings beat the Falcons. The Vikings, led, of course, by Josh Dobbs, who came in for the injured Jaren Hall, who got a concussion. He's in protocol for that right now. Josh Dobbs, I believe, was sacked in the end zone for a safety on his opening drive, and then just comes out firing also. I think he threw a pick. He didn't throw a pick. Jaren Hall actually, to Jaren Hall's defense, he looked really good. I was able to watch a little bit of the first half with Jaren Hall. He didn't look bad. He looked way better than I thought he would. That's a theme with these young quarterbacks that I'm going to go into in a minute. Because there's another couple young quarterbacks that played really well this weekend. But Josh Dobbs, leading rusher, to be expected. Alexander Madison and Brandon Powell caught touchdowns. But it was a big day for the defense. Byron Murphy had a touchdown on the defensive side. The Falcons, led by Taylor Heineke. What happened to Bijan? Actually, I think I can answer this. People when you go against the Falcons now, everyone's focusing on Bijan. It's opening the lanes for what I like to see for a guy like Jonnu Smith, a guy like a Kyle Pitts, Kadero Hodge, I guess. It's opening the doors for other receivers. So the passing games looks much better, but Bijan only is getting like 50 yards. He didn't get a touchdown this week. He went to Tyler Algier. So listen, the Falcons running game, is it getting nerfed a little bit? That's the question to ask. We had the Texans play an, I think, game of the year so far, or one of the games of the year, led by a guy who I loved going into the draft, despite him doing really bad on that like IQ test or whatever the heck it was. And that is CJ Stroud. 30 of 42 for a rookie record-breaking 470 yards and 5 touchdowns. That deserves one clap because I don't usually do that very much. But the performance he put on, some of the throws he made towards the end of the game, absolutely insane. You had big days from Noah Brown, 6 for 153. Dalton Schultz had 10 for 130 and a touchdown. Tank Dell, 6 for 114. He threw over 100 yards to 3 different people. That's insane. You don't see that every day. Nico Collins, 3 for 54 and a touchdown. The ground game was near invisible, but it can be when CJ Stroud's just chucking the ball everywhere and everyone's making a play on it. CJ Stroud had a field day, including a very clutch final drive where he found Tank Dell in the back of the end zone with the drive started with 40 seconds left after Baker Mayfield marched down the field and fired a laser to Cade Otton to take the lead. CJ Stroud says not so fast, and CJ Stroud fires a laser right into the hands of Tank Dell and the Texans win 39-37, improving themselves to 500 again. Which, if you take a look at the AFC South, they're still in the mix. They're 2 games out of the Jacksonville Jaguars, which not bad for the Texans. They're putting up a good fight. Jags were on bye this week, and you've heard it before. I'm not high on the Jags, but the Jags open with the 49ers. So if the Texans, we'll just check out who they have next just for reference. The Houston Texans have a chance to be 1 game back in the division. Unfortunately for them, they play the Bengals. But let's say they beat the Cardinals in 2 weeks. They hit Jacksonville on November 26th. Is this the time for the Houston Texans to really emerge? Because down the stretch, they get Denver, they get the Titans, they get the Titans again. I mean, the Colts. I mean, the Texans have 9 wins, I think, in them. It's very possible that the Texans will give Jacksonville a run for their money, led by the high-flying C.J. Stroud. It's very possible. And the game where I think you can really see them make a statement, because the last time the Jags faced the Texans, I just got to find where that game is real quick. The Jags and the Texans won on the road by 28 points. And if you look what was the big factor in the game, it was C.J. Stroud, because the run game for them is terrible. But C.J. Stroud throwing for almost 300 yards, 2 touchdowns, Trevor Lawrence just getting in his own way. I mean, it's a weird situation. Because the Texans, if they win again, are going to have the head-to-head. They're going to have a decent amount of AFC South wins. I think, let's just look at who the Texans have played so far. This is one of my teams that I love to watch. The Texans have, I think, 1 divisional loss. It was a painful divisional loss, to the Indianapolis Colts, led by AR-15 and Anthony Richardson. Correct? Oh, no, it's Gardner Minshew. My mistake. Anthony Richardson, I think this is the game that he got injured. But C.J. Stroud threw for 384 yards. Listen, if the Texans had a defense, they'd be winning this division right now. I'm dead serious. But some of the statement wins that they've had, the Panthers game is going to haunt them a little bit, but that's how you bounce back from that Panthers game. The big performance like that from C.J. Stroud. Very impressed. Very, very impressed. You had Lamar Jackson just destroy the Seahawks 37-3. You had Washington, who played one of the weirdest games of the day and almost choke it against the Patriots. They won 20-17 to go to 4-5. Nice win for Washington in a time of need. You had the Packers destroy the Rams. The Rams without Matt Stafford. They are on bye next week, I believe. And then the Bears with Tyson Bagent barely lose to Derek Carr and the Saints. Then we had the Colts, who beat the Panthers 27-13, led by Gardner Minshew, keeping the Colts in the race for the AFC South. We had the Browns destroy the Cardinals 27-0, and then we get to the fun stuff. 3 games that I liked. And I talked about rookie quarterbacks earlier. Aiden O'Connell is something else. He didn't throw for a touchdown. Very true. But the way just the Raiders looked under that new coach, off the charts already. Josh Jacobs finally did something in the ground game. 26 for 98 and 2 touchdowns. Both touchdowns in the first half. He had like 70 yards in the first half. He went nuts. Jacoby Myers had a rushing touchdown as well on a jet sweep. You had a big day for the Raiders defense, led by Nate Hobbs, Amik Robertson, both getting interceptions off Tommy DeVito. We'll explain what happened there in a moment. But you had what Aiden O'Connell was doing, the little things that Aiden O'Connell did, proved to me that he is a better quarterback than Jimmy Garoppolo is. Because Jimmy G is not yelling things at the line, making that pre-reads, reading the defense before the snap. He's not doing that. Aiden O'Connell is. It sucked that he didn't throw the ball more, because I think Devontae Adams should have had a touchdown in this game because it's the Giants. What would you expect? But Aiden O'Connell played a much better game than the stats show. Made some great reads, some great throws. First half, insane. Second half, I think they took the foot off the gas a little. They're up 21 at the half, so don't really need to go that crazy. But a game that was crazy was the Philadelphia Eagles, who almost choked it to the Dallas Cowboys. Dak Prescott, 29-44 for 374 yards, 3 touchdowns. leading the Cowboys to almost the weirdest end I've ever seen. What happened on the last drive? Eagles got sloppy with penalties. They had injuries. And then Dak did, the Cowboys marched down the field on 3 penalties. 2 of them shouldn't have been a penalty. One of them should have. I think it was the right call. I think it was a pass interference on the left side. I think it was the right call. But other than that, you really shouldn't have called either. Then there was like a roughing the passer. I think that was kind of soft. But listen, roughing the passer being kind of soft, you saw in the Patriots game too. But Dak Prescott got sacked, didn't spike it, and then tried to run another play, and it resulted in an incompletion. So you lost 2 downs, essentially, then a false start, and then they threw an incompletion. Threw a completion, but the runner was short of the end zone. That's how the game ended. Jalen Hurts not looking impressive again for me. 17-23 for 207. They really limited DeAndre Swift. A.J. Brown, Devontae Smith, the receiving touchdowns, you would expect that. But the Eagles, the much-needed win, their only loss, of course, being to the New York Jets. And then you had Sunday Night Football. Joe Burrow, 31 of 44 for 348. I said it last week. This is like a repeat of last year. They just looked terrible in the beginning. The Bengals are now 5-3. And listen, every team in the AFC North is currently in the playoffs. You have the Cincinnati Bengals, the Cleveland Browns, the Steelers, and the Ravens. This is the Bengals' time. Listen, they have an interesting one next week with the Houston Texans, then the Ravens and the Steelers. I think they win at least one of their next 3. I think they beat Jacksonville. I think they beat India. I think they beat Minnesota. So there's a lot of winnable games down the stretch where you can see the Cincinnati Bengals win 11-plus games. Listen, I was high on the Bengals in the beginning of the year. This is really the Bengals' time. Down the stretch, you can beat a team like an Indianapolis. You can beat a team like Pittsburgh twice. You can beat a Minnesota Vikings with who knows who they have at quarterback. You can beat a team like Jacksonville due to their inconsistency. I think they can beat the Browns too. So, Cincinnati opened up with a very poor game week 1 against the Browns. But the redemption story can be at the end of the year. For Buffalo, they're in 3rd. You heard me right, ladies and gentlemen. The New York Jets are in 2nd. And a win will put them right where they need to be in the wild card hunt. To be tied. The Jets have won 3 in a row. We'll talk about them in a moment. For the Bills, another frustrating loss. They're now 5-4. A very harsh 1 game behind. Listen, if the Jets win this game, they're a half game out of 1st. Granted, they have a very tall order tonight. They have to beat the Chargers. But then they play the Raiders, which I think the Jets will look better than the Giants did because the Jets are better than the Giants. But listen, I think it's very possible that the Jets will lead this division after next week. This is not me saying it from a biased perspective. This is not me doing anything like that. Because why? Look who's off next week. The Dolphins are off next week. The Jets can very well be tied for 1st at the end of next week. But you got to take it 1 game at a time to try and get to that point. The Jets are going to be in a dogfight all night. Listen, I think it's very possible that the Chargers can win by 20. But with the MetLife energy, I think the Chargers are going to struggle. But Justin Herbert is very good, and especially in the first half, in a primetime game. And the Jets struggle in first halves. Will Brandon Staley choke it again? Or will Zach Wilson emerge once again and beat Justin Herbert? Because after that, he just has to be Aiden O'Connell, which, granted, he's looked bad playing because he has played down to some quarterbacks this season. But this is Zach Wilson's time again. You guys know who I would pick for this game. I'm going to go with the home team. I'm going to go with Jets, but it's going to be a fun one, I'll tell you that. It's going to be very, very exciting. Our finale for episode number 49 will be Formula One. And we had the Sao Paulo GP. A lot to break down from this. So I was able to watch this race, the majority of this race before it turned into a snooze fest at the end until the final lap with the battle between Alonso and Perez. But let's go from the sprint first. So qualifying, the order was Verstappen, Leclerc, Stroll, Alonso, Hamilton, Russell, Norris, Sainz, Perez, Piastri, Hülkenberg, Ocon, Gasly, Magnussen, Albon, Tsunoda, Danny Rick, Bottas, Sargent, and Zhou Guanyu. The two Alpines got penalties for impeding, so they dropped more. But we'll talk about the actual race in a moment. We had the sprint shootout, which was Lando and Norris going P1 in the sprint shootout. Then it was Max, then Perez, then George Russell, Hamilton, Yuki Tsunoda in an interesting P6, Charles Leclerc, Daniel Ricciardo, Sainz, Piastri, K-Mag, Hülkenberg, Gasly, Bottas, Alonso, Ocon, Stroll, Zhou, Albon, and Logan Sargent. And then we had the actual sprint. And it was a good sprint race. I mean, for the first 5 laps, it was good. But Verstappen pulled away as per usual. He won, followed by Lando, Perez, Russell, Leclerc, Tsunoda, Hamilton, Sainz, Ricciardo, and Oscar Piastri were the top 10. And then you have the actual race. And we'll talk about the Open, what happened in the Open. So, off the jump, Charles Leclerc crashed on I call it the parade lag. That's what they used to call it, but I'm trying to figure out what it's called. It's like the lap before the race starts. I'm just drawing a blank on the term. Hold on, guys. While I'm searching what this terminology is called, make sure to like and subscribe to the channel. I mean, it'd be really supportive for me. And like I said, 10 likes on a video, and we'll do a topic of your guys' choosing, which will be a fun one. Let me just search up. All right, F1 race called. Okay, by the way, I'm actually intrigued to see what you guys. The formation lap. How did I not know that? So Charles Leclerc crashed on the formation lap, and then on lap 1, we saw a crash and a long red flag. The crash was between. We had Albon and Magnussen go out immediately, and then we had Daniel Ricciardo and Piastri also involved in the crash. Unfortunately for them, they had an unfortunate situation, and the race result, essentially, I mean, Daniel Ricciardo and Piastri were basically a lap down from the start, and you hate to see it. I don't know why they were a lap. I mean, they were a lap down because of the safety car lap, which hurts for them, but we had a lot of DNFs today. We had yesterday. We had Leclerc, Albon, Magnussen, Zhou Guanyu, Valtteri Bottas, and Russell. Interesting one. Both Alfa Romeos were out, but who had a big day for me? I mean, Lando holding on to P2, getting the fastest lap. You love to see it. Alonso with a very good P3. Lance Stroll with a big day in the points. He qualified so well for the actual race. He finished P5. Gasly with a big rebound. Hamilton, a very disappointing P8. Yuki Tsunoda getting points. Again, another race where AlphaTauri is in the points. Well done from them. And Esteban Ocon finishing it up in the top 10. Logan Sargent, a frustrating P11 for me because I wanted him to get a point. But if you take a look at the constructors' standings, what the run AlphaTauri is in, they're only 7 points behind Williams, who have all but one of their points from Alex Albon. So I really think Albon would have made a run for the points yesterday, but hate to see him get crashed out like that. Of course, Red Bull won, but Ferrari and Mercedes are going to go down to the wire. Same with Aston Martin and McLaren. Aston Martin P5, but McLaren with a 21-point lead. Alpine pretty much have hold up. Will take their P6 and go. But 2 races left in the Formula 1 season, and we get to preview one of them on Friday, and the next Friday for the final 2 races of the Formula 1 season. And on that note, that will be all for my episode here today on the Robbie Basel Show. Thank you guys so much for watching. If you like what you see here, hit the like button and subscribe to the channel. I'll see most of you guys, because make sure to tune into the stands on Thursday from 5 to 6 p.m. Link to the last episode will be in the description of this video, along with the last episode on this channel, because I forgot to post the ad for it on my Instagram story on Friday because I went home for the weekend and I forgot. But on that note, that will be all. I will see you guys on Friday. Goodbye, everybody.